The phone rang at 3:47 in the morning. Walter Reed Hospital. We need you to come in immediately for Colonel Robert Mitchell. In my 20 years in the military, I'd faced death more times than I could count. But this felt different. Racing down Highway 495 to get to the hospital, one thing kept eating at me, that key he'd handed me during our last conversation. Son, keep this key safe. When the time comes, you'll know what to do, he'd said. Well, that time had come. My name's Michael Mitchell. I'm a major in the U.S. Army, stationed at the Pentagon. My dad, Colonel Robert Mitchell, had put in 35 years of service. Vietnam, Gulf War, classified ops he never talked about. Even in retirement, Dad kept that military bearing, that look in his eyes like he'd seen things the rest of us hadn't. The drive to Walter Reed felt like it went on forever. Traffic was pretty light at that hour, just emergency vehicles and people getting off late shifts heading home. I kept thinking back to our last conversation 3 weeks ago at his house on Elmwood Drive in Arlington. We'd been sitting out on his back porch, watching the sun go down over the Potomac. Michael, he'd said, pulling this small brass key out of his pocket. I need you to take this. Don't tell Marcus about it, all right? Marcus was my older brother, 2 years older than me, successful real estate attorney downtown in D.C. Dad, and Marcus had always had this complicated thing going on. Marcus resented Dad's military career, all the moving around, the discipline and everything. What's it for, Dad? I asked, looking at this weird key. It was old, made of brass with these intricate markings I'd never seen before. Safe deposit box at First National on Connecticut Avenue, box 4726. When something happens to me, and something's gonna happen, son, you go there. But you go alone. His voice got that commanding tone I remembered from when I was a kid. I tried to tell him he had plenty of years left, but he held up his hand. Michael, I've screwed up. Done things during my service that Marcus doesn't get. He thinks military life is all honor and glory. Sometimes it's not. He paused, staring out at the river. There are people who'd hurt our family if they knew what I know. This key, its protection, and its justice. Now, pulling into Walter Reed's parking garage, I could feel the weight of that key in my pocket. The hospital corridors were creepy quiet. My footsteps echoed as I followed the signs to the cardiac unit. Dad had suffered a massive heart attack around 2 a.m. By the time the paramedics got to his house, it was too late. Dr. 24. Williams met me outside his room. Major Mitchell, I'm really sorry for your loss. Your father. He kept asking for you right up until the end. He kept saying something about telling Michael the truth. I thanked the doctor and spent a few minutes with Dad's body. Even in death, he looked like a soldier, jaw set, shoulders square. I kissed his forehead and whispered, I'll take care of it, Dad, whatever it is. Walking back to my car, my phone buzzed. Marcus, Michael, I just heard. This is terrible. We need to meet tomorrow and talk about arrangements, Dad's will, the house, his assets. Even while grieving, Marcus was already thinking business. Marcus, can we just... Look, I know this is hard, but Dad was practical. He'd want us to handle things efficiently. I'll have my assistant set something up with the estate attorney. Something about his tone bugged me. Too eager, too prepared. Had he been expecting this call? Next morning, I drove over to First National Bank on Connecticut Avenue. That key felt heavier with every step toward the safe deposit boxes. The bank manager, Mrs. Rodriguez, walked me through the security stuff after checking my ID and Dad's death certificate. Box 4726. She said, putting in her key and waiting for me to put in mine. Your father rented this box 15 years ago. Always paid the fees annually, always in cash. The box slid out. Inside were documents, photographs, and a letter addressed to me in Dad's handwriting. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Michael, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and it's time you learned the truth about our family and about Marcus. Back in 1987, I was part of Operation Blackwater, a classified mission in Central America. We discovered intel about drug trafficking routes being used by high-level government officials and military contractors. I kept copies of everything, figured it was insurance. 20 years later, Marcus came to me with a problem. His law firm was being investigated for money laundering. He was representing clients connected to the same trafficking network I'd exposed decades earlier. He begged me for help, said his career was over unless I could make the investigation go away. I used my contacts, my reputation, to convince the right people to look the other way. Marcus's firm got cleared, his clients were protected. But the price was my silence about what I knew, and regular payments to certain officials to keep things quiet. For 15 years, I've been paying that price. The money came from my military pension, savings, even your mother's life insurance after she passed. Marcus knows about all of this. He's been taking funds from my accounts, claiming it's for family investments. He thinks I'm some senile old man who doesn't notice. The documents in this box prove everything. The original Operation Blackwater files, records of the payments, Marcus's involvement with the trafficking network through his law firm. Don't let him claim everything I own to cover his tracks. These documents go to General Patricia Hayes at the Pentagon. She's clean, she'll know what to do. The house on Elmwood Drive has a hidden safe behind the bookshelf in my study. Combination is your mother's birthday, $51,562. There's enough cash there to start over if you need to disappear. But I hope you'll be braver than I was. Make this right. Dad, I sat in the bank's private viewing room, staring at all this evidence. Bank statements showing transfers to offshore accounts, photos of Marcus meeting with known criminals, copies of classified documents that could bring down half of Washington. My phone buzzed. Marcus again. Michael, where are you? We're meeting with Dad's attorney in an hour. Bring his house keys. I need to inventory his assets. I looked at all the evidence spread out in front of me. I'll be there. I said. The law office on K Street was everything you'd expect. Mahogany panels, leather chairs, that smell of old money and older secrets. Marcus was already there with his attorney, Richard Blackwood, this thin guy with cold eyes. Michael, finally, Marcus said, getting up to hug me. It felt like hugging a snake. Gentlemen, Blackwood started. Colonel Mitchell's will is pretty straightforward. The house, investments, and remaining assets are to be split equally between his sons. However, there are some outstanding debts that need to be taken care of before any distribution. Debts? I asked. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Dad had some financial obligations, nothing major. I've been helping him manage them. What kind of obligations, Marcus? Michael, let's not get into details. The important thing is making sure Dad's legacy stays intact. Some of his military record. There are sensitive matters that could be embarrassing if they went public. I leaned forward. Embarrassing how? Blackwood answered. Your father was involved in certain classified operations that, if disclosed, could compromise national security. There are people who've been making sure this information stays protected. It requires ongoing consultation fees. You mean blackmail, I said. The room went dead silent. Marcus's face had gone pale. Michael, Marcus said carefully, you don't understand how complex this is. I understand perfectly. I pulled out the bank documents. I understand that you've been stealing from Dad for 15 years. I understand that your law firm launders money for drug traffickers. And I understand that Dad died protecting your worthless career. Marcus lunged forward, trying to grab the papers, but I was faster. Military training comes in handy. Those are private family matters. Marcus shouted. These are federal crimes, I said, standing up and heading for the door. And tomorrow morning, General Hayes is going to have copies of everything. Michael, wait. Marcus called after me. We can work this out. There's money, lots of money. We can both benefit. I turned back to look at my brother. Dad taught me about honor, Marcus. Guess he forgot to teach you. Outside the law office, I called General Hayes' secure line. She agreed to meet that evening. 2 hours later, I handed over Dad's evidence to the woman who'd been his commanding officer during Operation Blackwater. She studied the documents with the same intensity Dad used to bring to his work. Your father was a good soldier, Michael, she said finally. He made one mistake, protecting family over duty, but in the end, he made the right choice. What happens now? Now, Marcus's law firm gets raided tomorrow morning. His criminal clients are going to find their assets frozen, and the officials who've been taking bribes will face military justice. She looked at me seriously. This is going to be dangerous for you. These people don't hesitate to eliminate threats. I thought about Dad's final words in that letter, about being braver than he was. General, I'm a soldier. Danger comes with the territory. 6 months later, I was standing in the federal courthouse in downtown D.C., watching Marcus get led away in handcuffs. He'd tried to flee to the Cayman Islands, but got arrested at Dulles Airport. His law firm's partners were getting indicted too. The whole trafficking network got dismantled, with over 50 arrests. General Hayes had kept her word. I was in protective custody for 3 months while the investigation wrapped up. The hidden safe in Dad's study had $200,000 in cash, which I donated to military veteran charities. The house on Elmwood Drive was mine now. I kept Dad's study exactly like he'd left it, except for one thing. I hung his medals on the wall, next to a photo of us from my West Point graduation. Sometimes I sit in his chair, thinking about the choices he made. He'd protected a son who didn't deserve protection, then found the courage to make it right. That key he gave me hadn't just unlocked a safe deposit box, it had unlocked the truth. Marcus got sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. During his trial, he never once looked at me. Maybe he felt shame, or maybe he was just pissed that his schemes had finally caught up with him. But I think Dad would be proud. Honor isn't just about following orders. Sometimes it's about knowing when to break the chain of silence that protects the wrong people. The military taught both of us about duty. Dad forgot that lesson for a while, but in the end, he remembered. And he taught me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust the next generation to do what's right. That brass key sits in my desk drawer now, reminding me that family loyalty should never come at the cost of honor. And that even when we screw up, we can still find a way to make things right. The truth, like Dad used to say, always finds a way to surface. Sometimes it just needs the right key to unlock it. If you've got stories like this and want them heard, let's connect in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.